Hi, my name is Ivan Velez, and welcome to Paper Fairy Tales. So, what is a fairy tale? Well, the fairy tales that we know are about magical situations, magical characters, usually made for children, and usually it's a happy ending, at least the way we see them now. Because believe it or not, back in the old days, a lot of those fairy tales ended really, really badly, even for the hero. Did you know that Little Red Riding Hood was eaten at the end of the story? Even the villains who dare to, go against the heroes, they got really, really punished at the end. So things are a little different from the old days. Remember the old days, the world was a little rougher place. Now, people think of fairy tales straight for children, and that's totally okay if you like that sort of thing. But if you're like me, you like a little bit of edge, a little bit more action, maybe a little bit more spooky stuff. You could take a fairy tale character and just change it to the way you want. Hey, so let's talk about mermaids. So mermaids have been around forever. They've been around since ancient Greek times, ancient Roman times, Babylonian stories about mermaids. Any culture that exists or has existed has their stories about mermaids. Even Japan has really, really scary ones called ningyos. A long time ago, people used to think that dolphins and whales or manatees were mermaids. And they make up all these stories about the magical creatures of the water. And of course, those magical creatures got into our fairy tales. Some people even use the legends of mermaids to trick people into thinking they were real. They'll put together skeletons of fish and monkeys together and they charge money for them to see it. And the most famous mermaid of all was written by Hans Christian Andersen. This famous story about a little mermaid who wanted to be something different changed the game. People really fell in love with the story all over the world. The idea of a little mermaid who wanted to be human was very, very appealing to people. So when you think about a mermaid, so let's call them merfolk, which means they could be any shape and size. So let's say head, which is very simple. Make a little body, right? This is the first thing that I actually ever drew when I was a kid. I used to love mermaids. So the way I would do it is just go like this, very simple. Put an arm. I used to do very big eyes with a lot of eyelashes back then. Back then, eyelashes was the big thing. I remember my mom had like big eyelashes too. Now that's very girly, which is totally okay. We also kind of put like made them like this, like a little bikini top. If you think about hair, hair is very important to a mermaid. They're always seen combing their hair. They're always seen as kind of vain, which is doesn't have to be true. A lot of them are princesses in the stories, like their fathers were always like, the king of Atlantis or something like that. But those stories are kind of like very many, what they call a dime a dozen, which means a lot of people do the same kind of story over and over again. So let's think about doing a mermaid that maybe looks more like somebody in your family, right? Mermaids should have different tones. Remember that every country has had different mermaids. So every country's mermaids look like them. So if they were closer to some African countries, then they would be darker skin. In the Caribbean, they see mermaids, and of course, they have darker skin. Um, Chinese mermaids are very beautiful with long, long, long black hair. And there's even scary Japanese mermaids who are very pretty, but they tend to eat people. If you think about the head, string where the body goes, and remember the mermaid has flows, so you can actually go like that because the tail's going to go flow and bend too. Do the body, right? And then, which is fun with the mermaids, that you don't have to worry about the legs so much because they have a tail, and fish tails can be very, very fluid. So you can do any kind of fish tail if you want. Some people do this kind of fish tail. Some people do like the shark fish tail. Some people do very beautiful kind of like carp fish tails on the top. Well, I would think that there'll be kind of like some bling out under the ocean, right? Some seashells, some plant life. So you can make like plant wraps for your mermaid. Okay. Notice the arms. Remember, the way that we know mermaids, they look like humans except for the bottoms. So they would have hands as well. They would have very pretty eyes. I like hair, and I like hair that flows because remember, it's under the water and the waves take it. And I think that's what they got. Disney's Little Mermaid was actually very nice that way. Okay. Now that's one kind of mermaid. What if we decide to do another type of mermaid? Let's say a merboy, okay, or merman. Okay, circle, little string for the body, little spine. Let's think about a boy shape. Okay, so top, and then you could also do your little tail. Okay, shoulders. Okay, so eyes. If you're gonna do a boy, they tend not to have as many eyelashes as girls, but you know some of them do. So if you decide that the family look has eyelashes, then you put eyelashes in them. Okay, all right. He's gonna look like somebody in my family. So my family tends to have shorter black hair. They tend to have rounder noses. Okay. And remember, it's always to draw characters that look like your family, because a lot of times, you know, sometimes the only characters that show up in the, well, at least when I was a kid, are like blonde people with blue eyes, and I didn't know anybody with blonde hair and blue eyes. So it gives you that kind of feeling like maybe you're never going to be in the story, or people like you are never going to be in the story. And that's not true. Of course, we're going to be in stories. The thing is that sometimes we have to draw those stories ourselves first. Okay, there we go. Let's make some nice dark eyes. Okay, all right. I like gear. I also like the fact that mermaids have to kind of hunt for food. When you think about it, right? So maybe they can have like whale bones or that kind of stuff as weapons. So that's one mermaid, one man, merboy. I should call them merfolk. Okay. Now, if you're gonna make a hero can be male or female. So let's say we're gonna make a hero mermaid who is like one of these tough guys, make kind of like a tail that looks very kind of ready to fight. So that's more like a shark type or a whale type or an orca. So remember arms, put the skeletons for the arms. Circle, circle. Okay, let's do some kind of cool patterns because remember a lot of fish have these beautiful little patterns, and there's no reason why your merfolk can have these patterns as well. Okay, let's give them some gear. You notice that the armor, they always have armor in stories. Let's give them some kind of helmet to protect himself, right? Oh, that's kind of cool. You can also make a girl as a warrior too. Warrior mermaids, mer women, merfolk. Again, the string, chest, let's make stomach, make the triangle, and then you fit the tail. Give her some of the armor too. Actually, she looks tougher than the boy. Okay, let's give her some armor, some plating, maybe some coral. Ooh, some seashells. Maybe she has seashells on the top. Now remember, you don't have to draw perfectly to make your characters kind of interesting. If you notice, a lot of the cartoons have very, very simple designs, very goofy designs, but they're not perfect drawings. They're just kind of interesting, like in Adventure Time or Steven Universe. They're very beautiful and they have their own rules. Give it a tough look. Don't mess with me. She got work to do. Okay. Oh, she looks very cool. So remember, mermaids can be very cute that way or very kind of serious, like an adventure story. You can also make mermen or mermaid or merfolk. They don't have to be fish bottoms. Merfolk can actually be anything. So let's say if I wanted to do a mermaid who is more like, let's do the string, let's do the body right here. It's going to be her pelvis. She can have an octopus bottom, you know, still be just as cute as all the other mermaids. I'm thinking that if Ursula, when she was young, she must have been very cute too, right? Very cute, very interesting. I wonder what her story. Wonder if I could see a story about Ursula. All those, they always have the evil sea witches that's really bad, but they must think they're right, and they might have a story too. Big eyes. Now, you don't have to have long flowing hair. In fact, you can put it up, or maybe like in the seashell. That may be interesting. All these different kind of ideas of how a mermaid should look like. Or you can have a jellyfish mermaid. Jellyfish mermaid would have the same kind of upper body, except the bottom would be like a jellyfish. So a jellyfish is this really beautiful kind of gelatinous dome with all these like little strings on the bottom, these tendrils. And how beautiful can that be? Especially if you start putting color on it. Have you ever see some of those jellyfish that kind of light up in the water? Wouldn't that be cool if you can have like a mermaid or merfolk or jellyfish people? It kind of almost look like wedding dresses. Those like really, really puffy kind of like princess dresses you see in the old movies. Again, you can make them into boys or girls, or maybe they don't have a gender the way we think about gender. They could be so totally different. So that might be interesting. Okay, let's make her. I want to make a little bit more a fishy cloth because since her jellyfish dress looks, jellyfish bottom looks so flowing, it looks like a clothing itself. Let's make it look more official, like she's coming to a party or something, a birthday party. Okay, maybe she has a gift for the queen or for her mom. Yeah, let's give her a gift. A bow on it. Think about different types of shape. They don't all have to be fishtail or eel tails. You know, like eels. Ooh, that might be interesting. With kind of fin on this side, making her look more dragon-like. Let's give her a different hair. Let's give her kind of like fins on the side. Now, how cute is that? Now, remember that mermaids or merfolk can be different ages too. So if you want to do an older one, different body types, like you would be a bigger person, wouldn't you? You'd kind of be thicker, a little stronger looking. And then maybe that big kind of like whale tail. Now that'll be a tough mermaid. Kind of like that. They don't even have to have hair without black eyes. And maybe put some of those shapes they have. Okay. So that's different types of mermaids. So when you think about doing a mermaid, think about doing something interesting, different, something to your own flavor, and make them look a little bit like your family. Because remember, a lot of times we don't see ourselves represented on fairy tales or stories. So tell your own story. So what other kind of creatures are there? Well, how about the princess? There's always a story about a princess. And if you're a little boy and watching one of these fairy tales, you tend to identify with the prince who saves everyone, who always saves the princess. And sometimes little girls can see the old fairy tale stories with the princess and think that they can't really do anything for themselves unless a prince does it for them. And that's kind of like weird and wrong, isn't it? So let's create characters, boys and girls, who do all the work themselves. So let's say a princess who fights. Sometimes a prince that needs a little help. So when girls and boys are treated equally in a story, it's actually better for everyone else. And it makes the story more interesting. That means any character can do anything, and it could get twisty and interesting and as fun as you make it. You don't have to worry about those old stereotypes, girls being weak and passive and boys being kind of rough and tough. You can actually mix a little bit of the two and have everyone get a good piece of the story. So when you see a princess in a story, she's usually in trouble. She's usually needs a lot of help. She's usually lost. So the fairy tales I like the best are the ones where the princess has to kind of figure things out and help herself. Because that whole idea of a prince coming along and saving everybody is kind of old, it's kind of tired. And it's not really fair to girls who kind of like are pretty smart and they know how to get themselves, out of trouble. And they know how to do things and they know how to fight and they know how to kind of figure out puzzles and stuff like that. So let's say if I made this fairy tale, I think I would take the skirt away just because skirts can get caught on things and, it's a little bit of trouble. To make it more comfortable. So let's give her maybe some shorts. Okay. And what a cool scene if the princess actually took her skirt and made shorts out of them. Let's go like that. Let's give herself some really comfortable shoes. Maybe some hiking shoes she needs. Okay. Instead of those like little delicate, like a glass slipper. I'm sorry, but if I was wearing a glass slipper or if anybody knew was wearing a glass slipper and they fell and broke, wouldn't your feet get all cut up? It's like crazy, right? And think about the culture of the character. They don't all have to be from Europe. They don't have to be all blue-eyed and blonde hair. They can actually be from different countries. Let's make my princess from Ecuador. So I'll make her hair a little bit more dark. All right. So that kind of thing is very interesting. Remember, big eyes tend to make characters look really cute. Think about what kind of things she fights. Does she have like a weapon? Maybe. I would think maybe put a sword on her side, okay, or maybe a bow and arrow on the back, so she's ready to go. So she's going to save her own kingdom, save him from the evil dragon or whatever, stuff like that. Or how about making the dragon one of the characters? You know, sometimes they always have the princess being held captive by a dragon or a dragon threatening the kingdom. What about if you made a princess who turned into a dragon? Give her like some good dragon eyes. You can call it the dragon princess or something like that. That'd be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? So many people are scared of her, but they don't understand that she can help it if at nighttime she turns into a dragon. I'm gonna give her a little bit of a skirt just because it's kind of interesting to see her change into the dragon girl. And maybe the skirt can flow when she flies. Okay, let's give her some dragon wings. So that's one way. Remember, taking the story and changing a little bit makes it really interesting, really fun. And you know how people expect certain things? If you change the expectations, it makes the story that more interesting and that more entertaining. Let's give her some nice, I like the pointy shoes he used to have back in the day. For some reason, I would think a dragon girl would wear pointy shoes. So that's one story type. Let's say a prince. Maybe you have a clumsy prince who needs help from everybody else. And maybe part of the story is that he has to learn how to be less clumsy, how to be more confident in himself, how to pay attention to learning new things. Because some princes are very lazy because all they do is play, play, play all day. And then when they have to do something important, they don't know what to do. And let's make him from another country, from the Congo maybe. He's a prince in Congo or Ethiopia. Let's give him some. He could even be a prince from another planet. Let's do a princess from another planet. How about that? And making creatures from other planets is a lot of fun because you don't have to pay attention to anatomy. You can do whatever you want. So let's say she has like chicken legs. Okay, maybe she has like wings. She could be a bird princess. I'm gonna give her again tights or shorts because she ain't got no time for like skirts and frilly things because she's got work to do. And your princess really should have work to do. Okay, she should be busy either learning or doing new things or helping people, helping poor people. You can make monster princesses. You can make, and if you really want to do the traditional princess, kind of small, like very pretty with the puffy. We used to do that with the puffy sleeves. But make her interesting. So maybe she has a secret skill. So she could totally be that kind of big puffy dress you want. Now, again, if you want to make a puffy dress, it's the way I did when I was a kid. Circle, square, and then the puffy dress. See? You could split it in the middle, kind of make it open like that. And this is very kind of like maybe 17th century style. Because back then they have a lot of puffy dresses. And then put the little crown. We used to do the big eyes. Now that is super cute. So maybe what I like a story of a super cute, very pretty, very, very girly princess is that maybe she's secretly a kung fu master. Anyway, that's my take on princesses. Now fairies are different in each country. In some stories, fairies are cute. A lot of the European fairies, at least the recent ones, they're very cute, very tiny, very pretty. But if you know, even Tinkerbell, who was in the original Peter Pan story and play, she was never a really good fairy. She was kind of jealous all the time. She was mean. A couple of times she tried to kill Wendy because she was so jealous. So fairies are not always as cute and friendly as they tell in the stories. In China, they believe that fairies were kind of like animal spirits who tried to become human spirits. And they would practice and practice and practice their magic until they became human. And sometimes they would like do very bad things to become more human. A lot of these fairies were very beautiful. They were very flowing. There was a lot of movies back in when I was a kid of like flying fairy creatures. Were very, very pretty. So these Chinese fairies were very interesting, but some of them were spiders that became human. Some of them were snakes that became human. Very famous story of white snake and green snake. So some of these stories were very sad. Some of the stories are kind of fun. Some of the stories are very scary, like fox spirits. Fox spirits, those kind of fairies, they tend to be very tricky are very manipulative, and some of them have, you know, they have a taste for eating people. So if you choose to do a fairy that came from an animal or a spirit, like a spider or stuff like that, think about what kind of animals they are or where they come from, and how do those kind of animals act. Maybe a boy. Boys can be fairies too, by the way, not just girl. You know, boys who are wolf spirits will be kind of impulsive, maybe a little angry, a little too tough. So they will have to look like wolves a little bit, right? But remember, they want to be human, so of course they're going to try their best to be human. And a lot of them have special magic that they can look human until, you know, something happens where it brings out their animal nature. But if you think about European fairies also, a lot of them were famous for tricking people, and did look very insect-like. They had wings, some had antenna, just like insects, and a lot of these fairies were considered kind of evil, or like pests, like they bother you. So those characters were never considered like really happy, cool characters who helped you. Sometimes you had to trap a fairy in order to get a favor from them, because they did have a little bit of magic. A way to defeat those kind of fairies was using something made out of iron. For some reason, that was a weakness for them. And a lot of times you needed to fight these little creatures. They have their own agenda. Some of them don't like people very much. But remember that even Tinkerbell, when she first came out, she really wasn't a nice person. So fairies are very interesting that way. They can be scary, they can be cute, they can be flowing lyrical, they can be very, very beautiful, or they can even be monstrous if you want. So fairies are kind of fun, and they're always a good part for a fairy tale. So you're going to make your hero, and you're going to make very simple versions of them. For instance, circle, square, arms and legs, okay? So let's say big head, big eyes, nose, mouth. Remember, nose is always under the eyes, and the mouth is always under the nose, okay? I'm gonna make myself a little vampire king. Let's do another character. I'm gonna do another one here who's my mermaid, so I'm gonna make her look like she's swimming a little bit. So I'm gonna give her a short hair. I'm gonna give her an earring. And she's very cute. Let's give her some hands here. Remember, I put circles here because I can actually make a fist if I want to, or if I put a thumb and add the fingers on top. So circles are very versatile that way for hands. Okay, so let's do like this. Okay, put a little circle. Okay, she's like, what's up? Excuse the voice. Okay, I'm gonna give him a little tank top. Give her a little tank top, right? Because you don't want to wear too much clothes in the water. It gets heavier. So afterwards, you want to be able to ink. Let's do one more character. I think I'm going to do, my character is going to be a hero, a robot from another planet who wants to go home. And then kind of like give him those like little kind of pieces you kind of put together. Okay, and then some big hands. Go like big hands. And he looks like maybe he was a worker robot. We used to like put things together, like a carpenter or something. Okay, and then give him a longer neck, kind of like a square head maybe. Robot eyes, let's go like that. Robot ears, and I'm gonna give one big antenna so you can get the signal right. Okay, so that's my robot friend, or robot hero. He has his own fairy tale. But robots could get fairy tales too. All right, so what you're gonna do, you're gonna ink it. So remember, when you do your pencil work, you wanna do it very light. Make sure there's a nice soft pencil so you can erase. Say if I want to do inking, I'm not too worried about the character, right? Because I kind of know what she looks like. I did a pencil drawing of her. So now I'm gonna only draw on the lines that I want. She has nice short hair. I'm going to leave the hair blank unless it's all black, then I can color it in. But if it's all blank, maybe I want to add some watercolors on top of it. By the way, if you're going to use a marker, try to use a permanent marker like a Sharpie or something to that effect, so that when you do watercolor crayons or markers on top of it, it doesn't smudge. And that's always a nice thing. Okay, I'm going to give her 3 fingers. Use a little fishtail. Okay, I don't have to do too many details because I can erase afterwards. See? And this is what you come up with. All right. Now remember, I'm using a digital tablet, but this is true of paper too. You can actually do the marker drawing on top of it and just erase it. Again, Do my little vampire king. I started inking. I thought, maybe he needs pointy ears. And I can do that easy without having to draw it in the pencil. Little crown, all right? Let's give him some claws. But he's a nice vampire. Maybe he's a vegetarian. There's a story right there. All right, that's one story. And then the robot guy. Let's do Joey the robot guy. Put a little bit like that. Do his head. Do that little antenna. Now, these are characters for your stories. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do little pop-up versions of them. Now, pop-up is not very hard. All you need is scissors, maybe a glue stick, some paper, or you can get some foam paper in any dollar store. They might have some foam paper, or like cardstock paper, which is like really kind of thick, regular paper that people print with. They can make cards out of. You can get that pretty cheap, or index cards. Index cards are really easy. They're everywhere. They're in every store, every Staples store, or 99-cent stores has a ton of them in different colors even. You have your characters there, and then when you want to, you can actually add a little bit of color to it. But you can use colored pencils on top of everything, drawings, crayons, a little bit of watercolor. Again, watercolor on top of permanent markers looks very nice. I can try to fake some watercolor. So let's say her skin is a little purplish, right? I kind of like purple skin. Maybe I'll make her tail a little bit dark green. And if her tail's dark green, why don't we make her hair kind of greenish? So again, watercolors, colored pencils work very well. Give green eyes. So again, doing a little bit of color kind of makes it kind of interesting. So that's that. So if you're going to make villains, the bad folks in your stories, you got to remember that every villain thinks they're right. All those evil queens against the princesses, well, they want to protect their power. They want to protect their kingdom. All those wolves eating little pigs and Little Red Riding Hood, well, they're hungry. And that's the way they eat. If you think about their point of view, what does a bad person think inside? Maybe you'll see that maybe sometimes they're not all bad, which makes for a more interesting story. Let's make some paper fairy tales. Here you go. There's some drawings I did on pencil, just a regular pencil and paper, right? Notice they're very pretty loose, simple designs. I made them chibi style, which means big head, little bodies, which is pretty easy and pretty fun. This is Little Red Riding Hood, Bronx style, and this is the neighborhood wolf, who happens to be a girl. If you notice that I want to kind of change the story a little bit, I made it more urban, give me some sneakers, so she's more like a Little Red Riding Hoodie. Notice that she has a backpack instead of a basket. These little changes make a story kind of really interesting and kind of fun. Then you can start playing with different options of how you're going to make your little pop-up. Now, you're going to redraw your characters very small. This is some foam paper. Foam paper is pretty easy to get. You can get them at some dollar deal stores, 99-cent stores. Or you can use index cards, and I'll show you how to do that soon. So what you're going to do is draw your character over. So let's say I'm making one of my mermaids. I know, and I have to draw upside down for you guys, just to kind of show off a little bit. But to also show you that it's pretty simple to redraw these characters. You don't have to be perfect. Let's make her hair. Now remember, these little lines here with pencil, you don't press too hard because you don't want to break your foam paper. If you make it nice and small, you're going to take a marker afterwards and you're going to go in with the marker. I like to use permanent markers over it. Remember, you're going to outline it. Basically, you're inking. If you do a comic book, you know that you have to do everything pencil first and then you ink afterwards, adding the black lines. So you see right here, I don't have to worry about making the lines perfect. The black line is going to be very, very, very thick, very dark. It's going to take most of the attention of the viewer. So let's make some lines kind of this way. Now, of course, if you want to take a thinner marker, you can, which is very, for little details. But since I'm going like really quickly, okay. If you want to, you can add other colors inside. I like to keep it black and white, so I can play with a little texture. But here's a tip: if you do colors on top of the permanent marker, you want to use a little bit of watercolors maybe to touch it up. Okay. Then what you do afterwards, you take a scissor and you cut it. Now, when you cut, you don't want to cut to the black line because it's easy to make mistakes. Plus, I kind of like that kind of like cartoony, loose border, kind of like a storybook. Remember the lines not to the edge. I'm going to put that on the side. Let's do another one. I'm going to try another color now. Let's try, now that's very simple, pretty quick. Here we go. Now, thinner marker again gives you more control, especially over these little drawings. So I would use a thinner marker if you can. There's a little darkness in there. Let's put some waves here. Show a little curl in there a little bit, not so much. And then let's put a little bit of the texture. Okay, here we go. Like that. Now you can do a whole ton of characters like that, and you don't have to pop them up if you don't want to. You can actually take, leave them like that, put them in your book. They're great for book covers if you put a little glue stick on the back. And I'll show you a little bit of that. Okay. Or if you take one of the magnets you can find in one of the 99-cent stores or Michael's or one of the art stores, these little disc magnets, you can glue it in the back and just stick it on the refrigerator. So all these little pieces that you find here, you can make wonderful little things, for instance, that you might want later. You can make all kinds of different kind of color fish or different striped fish, and you can use them in the background as decoration. Okay, let's put some big things on that. Maybe I'll put a little octopus. So this kind of stuff, you can do them of all different colors. There you go. So these quick little things, they're good like decorations for your pop-ups. Okay, now let's get to the pop-up part. You can also use index cards. Just make sure that one side of it is blank. Let's see. So what's good about these is that they're still kind of thick, so you can actually do your drawing on them. You can use pencils. Let's say I'm gonna make my little Frankenstein monster. There you go. You got a Frankenstein monster type. But what's good about this is that you can ink it straight onto the paper. You don't have to make a second version. And again, since I like my mermaids, I'll make another mermaid here. The Frankenstein kid and the mermaid, the octopus mermaid, kind of hanging out. They all got turned into creatures by the same witch. Alright, let's get some eyes going. Very cute big eyes. Ooh, cool hair. Let's give her tentacle arms too. Kind of like that. I mean, they could act like real arms, but okay. Now, what you can do also is take a little glue stick and stick them on the eyes. So let's say my Frankenstein guy has like really googly eyes. Googly eyes are like gold, by the way. You find googly eyes, get them. Okay. But I'm going to keep this off for right now. You're going to take your scissor again. You're going to cut them again loosely around it. Not so perfectly around the black line, okay? Give it some space. Okay, here we go. So these two little versions. So you can get this version. You can do like the little foam paper versions. Okay. So these are kind of enough to just play with or have for yourself. You have a little book full of your characters. But if you want to make a pop-up, this is one of the ways to do it. Now you're going to take this, you're going to fold it over right to the seam, make that perfect fold, okay, like this. And that helps. See, like that? Now, what makes a pop-up, so if you're going to have two characters in your pop-up, you're going to have to make two different kind of cuts on the side. See right here? Now this is the side where it folds. Now you take your scissor and you're going to make two lines here. 1, 2, see the equal cuts? Okay. You're going to go again. Remember, it's always on the seam, on the fold. And you're going to go 1, 2. They don't have to be the same kind of thickness. They could be actually, this one's a little thinner and longer, and this one's a little shorter. But this is the trick. Okay, you see these cuts right here? Alright, you're going to pull it back and tab it. Now, this is the way you do it. You pull it back and you make that crease. You pull this one back and you make that crease. Okay? Now you notice two different creases. You're going to open it And then this is the trick. This is how you pop it up. See right here, you push it through. So if you have 2 cuts, it's going to be a little tricky. Some people do 3, some people do 5, depending how big the paper is. But when you push it through and then you open it up, you get 2 stands. And these 2 stands are where your character is going to stand. So let's say here. There we go, here. Or maybe your character is going to be here. Now you can use the paper characters, and by the way, your coloring is up to you, and stick them up. Or you can use your foam characters. I like the foam characters just because they're kind of fun. Yeah, I like the way they feel. Okay. Now these little pieces right here, you can always glue them on top of places, or you can get a piece of paper. Let's say a piece of scrap paper. See. You can actually go like this, put a little glue stick on the bottom, just a little glue stick on the bottom of it, crease like that, and take your character. You can stick them up any way you want to, so that way it sticks by itself. See? So now you have like an octopus there. You have like these creatures here. I'm going to put one of her here right now. Remember, not too much glue. This paper, this glue sticks you can get from the dollar stores are just enough. And they stick up. Now, notice that it's cool that they stick up, but the background is still a little bit plain. So this is where your imagination comes in. Let's say if they're under the ocean, maybe they live with some underwater, maybe there's a volcano too. Like an underwater volcano, little clouds, underwater mountains. Okay, all kinds of interesting kind of like backgrounds. Okay, so you notice I didn't do much drawing, I just did some lines here. But what's cool about these lines is that I can cut them, cut the negative space out. Negative space is where the drawing is not on. So let's say, and again, that same loose kind of feel. So you have a background for your characters, and then you have, take another piece, bend it over as well. This one you don't cut. This one is a clean piece of paper that is folded. You take it by the fold and you pop it up like that. And you see the kind of different background now? And now you also have a card that if you want to put a character here, you can. You can give this as a gift and pop up the characters. Okay? So I'm going to show you another way to do this as well with index cards. A smaller version of the pop-up cards, which means you're going to fold them over again so that the lines are on the outside. Okay, the reason why is because when you have the character pop up, you want to see a nice blank piece of paper, right? Again, you're going to take this one, 2 cuts at the seam. Remember, it's at the fold. You take it, see the back, and then open it and pop it. So you have a kind of like a mini character, so you can take either your foam character or your regular character, right? Now this is kind of nice for showcasing if you want to play a game. You know, let's say I want to make a castle or something. So, or I like my city, so I'm going to make kind of like let's use a thicker marker this time. And kind of like a Bronx kind of style city. See? Now, making a Bronx kind of urban style city is very fun and interesting because it's basically graffiti style. And graffiti style, you have to do it pretty quickly, very simply. So you see these lines right there? I can go like this, or I can even make them 3D and pop them in a little bit. Okay, so ta-da! I can color it as much as I want. I can put all kinds of things in it and pop it up. You can take a little scissor, cut it like this. People get better and better, and they make really elaborate, beautiful kind of like paper dioramas, which is basically the same thing as a pop-up. It has little levels of things popping out. Okay, you take this. Let's put a little Frankie in there. Take a little glue stick, just a little bit on the bottom to stick him in there, and then let it dry. Okay, let it dry a little bit. See, and then you have a character thing like that. What's nice about this is that you can take another. And by the way, if some of these cards come in like assorted colors, so if you, let's say if you have like a red one from behind, you can actually give yourself a nice red one. Or since you know that this has a little texture coming out, right? Let's make some more texture on there. Maybe a different color. Do I have a different color marker? I'm going to give a little orange for the buildings. Just a little bit. What's good about these kind of like highlighters is that they tend to be very kind of almost glow in the dark. They're so bright and interesting looking. Now this is pretty simple. Put a little glue stick, kind of hold them together. And then that's the way to do one of them. Let's try to finish this one up. Let's put a little glue stick. It's on the back. When you put glue stick, I tend to only put glue stick on the inside card. Okay, that way it doesn't make a big mess. And then you don't see the glue. So glue one part, and then we get to the seam. Right straight to the seam. Seal it. Okay. Again, you're gonna do it like this. Straight to the seam. After you do to the edges, you don't have to do so much because a little glue stick goes a long way. Seal it. Now you notice how messy my table gets when I do this. This is just my style. Remember that little piece that kind of hung there? I can stick it up again. Let's put the fish up here. There you go. So it stands there a little bit more. Alright, this little fish boy. Again, I can color her and put her up there as well. Alright, so I have my characters there. In the front here, I can sign it. I'm going to put by Ivan Velez. Merboy. Ta-da! That'll be my story. Okay. So remember, fairy tales come from different cultures. Every different city, every different country has their own brand of fairy tales. So why can't you have your own brand of fairy tales? See what's important to you, what kind of stories you like. If you like action, if you like comedy, if you like adventure, if you like scary stories, and just start kind of spinning stories of your own. Make characters that you really care about, that you really love. Characters that look like you and your family, so that's very important. Will look like your friends. Characters that a lot of people don't make characters about. That's pretty important too. You take that and you make your own mythology, your whole different world of fairy tales that you set the rules to. You tell the stories about, that you make the endings for, and you share with your friends. You want to make a better world? You make better fairy tales.